Jasodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Brajajanaran Yamuna Tiravana Jadi Yamuna Tiravana Jadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Advaitacharya Astatarasatasi Simad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody from ISKCON Grand Rapids in the middle of winter. On Thursday, we observed the appearance day of Advaitacharya. And we're going to honor Advaitacharya again today. This should take about 45 or 50 minutes, and then we'll have some time for some discussion. The image that you see on the screen is a painting from the 1700s done by a British painter commissioned by the British government, a painting of Shantipur. And those of you that have been to Mayapur, or will one day go to Mayapur, you know that Shantipur is not very far from Navadvip or Sridham Mayapur. What was Navadvip at the time is where our present-day Mayapur is. The current Navadvip city is on the wrong side of the west side of the Ganga, but Navadvip during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time was on the east side of the Ganga, which is where Mayapur is today, and so is Shantipur, along the banks of the river Jamuna, the river Ganga, as you see. This is what it looked like in the 1700s, and this is Shantipur today. This is the home of Advaitacharya. And the property is a very large property surrounded by a boundary wall and many, 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 many hundreds, I would guess, very old, large mango trees, very popular place during mango season. And as you're looking at this outside of the temple compound, were you to walk just to the left of where we're looking, down maybe 70 meters, 80 meters, is a small other structure, a place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda would meet together with Advaitacharya and make plans for spreading Krishna consciousness during their time. I'm mentioning this because there's a very nice story found in one of the biographies about Prabhupada. Mula Prakriti interviewed some of the elder Vaishnavas in Navadvip and in Vrindavan about Prabhupada's life. So the Pujari, a very old a man, who was was the pujari for years at Shantipur, was interviewed by Madhvakriti and told the following story. When he was a young man, still is the pujari at the time, one elder sadhu, saffron cloth wearing man, it was Prabhupada, was chanting in front of that meeting place, the Sankirtan strategy structure I just mentioned, and all day long chanting on his beads and crying a good part of the day. So the pujari saw him sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, eventually went back and asked him if everything was all right. Did he need any help? And the person responded to him saying, I have a most difficult mission to undertake, assigned to me by my Guru Maharaj, and I'm praying to Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya and Advaitacharya to somehow have the strength and the intelligence and the ability to carry out this most difficult mission. And he continued to stay until nightfall. He left then for Calcutta, and from Calcutta the very next day was the day he was to board the Jaladuta. This came to be known later. So many years later, the same pujari saw Western, American, European Vaishnavas coming in the large numbers throughout Mayapur and to Shantipur, and in course of time, one of them gave him a Back to Godhead magazine in Bengali. And when he looked at the Back to Godhead magazine, he noticed the picture of the person who was at the masthead, the masthead of Back to Godhead magazine, so is Prabhupada in that mudra pose as he's speaking from the Vyasasan. That was the same personality who many years ago was leaving for the West to carry out the mission of his spiritual master, appealing to Advaitacharya, Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda for their mercy to make his mission successful. So that this place has a very special function, particularly even for ISKCON. Inside is the altar, and on the altar is a deity of Advaitacharya himself, because he's in the category of Vishnu Tattva. He's the personality of Godhead's expansion in the form of Advaitacharya. Here's a painting of the marks on his lotus feet, Srila Advaitacharya. And here he is pictured in the Panchatattva feature. Those of you that know Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a whole section, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. So, looking at the painting, in the center, of course, is Lord Chaitanya. To his right, or our left, that's Lord Nityananda. And to his right, or our left, is Advaitacharya. Advaitacharya is more prominent in the coloration of this Panchatattva painting. And to Lord Chaitanya's left, or to our right, is Gadadhar and then Srivas. So when the first 5-6 chapters of Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila are explaining each one of these personalities. And chapter 3 is describing Advaitacharya. And that section, we find that Advaitacharya, here he is with the deity that's on the altar in Sridham Mayapur. Advaitacharya is the same as Mahavishnu. And in the process of creation, there are different factors or features of creation. Mahavishnu is one of them. He's called the Upadan cause, upadan, maya. What happened here? What happened? Oh, can you read that on your screen? Material cause, upadan. Can you read it? Okay, good.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So it's a little technical, but I hope you don't mind at least one little technical point. There are features of causation that are material and efficient cause. That's the English language. So nimitta maya and upadan maya, or nimitta karana and upadan karana. The function of Mahavishnu, he's called upadan karana, or the material cause, because he generates the universes by contact with Prakriti. And as you see in the painting, in the upper portion, that's Krishna, and the light of Krishna is shining through a cloud. That cloud is the cloud of the Mahatattva, and Mahavishnu is reclining in that cloud of the Mahatattva upon the causal ocean. So, Krishna is the nimitta, or efficient cause, or the remote cause, and Mahavishnu is the upadan karana, or the material cause, or he actually generates the universes. And so these different features of causation. In this Sanskrit, in many cases, Mahavishnu is identified as Sankarshan. Sankarshan. Now, Sankarshan is a term that's also used commonly for Balaram. A little technical, but when the name-giving ceremony for Krishna and Balaram took place in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 8, Garga Muni gave the name Sankarshan as one of the names of Balaram. So one of the expansions of Sankarshan is Mahavishnu. So sometimes even Mahavishnu is called Sankarshan. That is the material causal principle of creation. That's Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu is the same as Advaitacharya. Advaitacharya is the same as Mahavishnu. You'll find that in Adi Lila chapter 3. Adi Lila chapter 6, 14 through 15. You can look that up later if you wish. More commonly, we're familiar with Advaitacharya in his function in the Sankirtan pastime with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very nice painting. Now, we find Advaitacharya pictured here with a beard, but this is another painting of a deity of Mahavishnu without a beard. So, which is it? It's one of these ISKCON controversies. You know about ISKCON controversies. So I'm going to read to you something that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote in his commentary on Chaitanya Bhagavat. Chaitanya Bhagavat is a biography about Lord Chaitanya's life, just as is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Here's what he writes. In accordance with scriptural injunctions, Sri Advaita Prabhu shaved his mustache, beard, and hair, just like you see in this painting here. Hair of any length on the chin is in ordinary language called dadi, or beard. Due to ignorance, some people attribute to him the symptoms like dress, beard, and hair of a foolish baula. He actually was clean-shaven. Now that's Bhaktisiddhanta. And here's Srila Prabhupada saying the opposite. This is in a class given November 21, 1966. That means he was in New York. And it's on speaking from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 20. And Prabhupada, this is a transcription of what he spoke. Just get him to a barber, clean shaven. Speaking about Sanatana Goswami being told by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, get him clean shaven. The Sanatana Goswami had been traveling and hadn't shaved for some time. According to the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya, they keep themselves clean shaven. And only single instance is there, Advaita Prabhu, he had his beard. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never asked him to cleanse. Because one reason is that Advaita Prabhu was just contemporary to his father, so he did not like to dictate. But otherwise, all his disciples, they were clean shaved. So, take your pick. Here he is, clean shaved. And for that matter, here's a nice ISKCON artist painting where no beard, he's clean shaved. Standing on his deity stanchion. Or here's another one. There's Advaitacharya on our far left, or Lord Chaitanya's far right. Now those on Lord Chaitanya's right, that is Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, and Advaita, they're in the category of Vishnu Tattva. Now this you know most likely. To Lord Chaitanya's left, that's Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit is Shakti Tattva, or like Radharani. And then farthest to our right, or Lord Chaitanya's left, is Srivas, who is Narada Muni. So that's quite a lineup. Krishna, Balaram, Mahavishnu, Radharani, and Narada Muni. In Krishna Lila, there they are in Gaura Lila. So there's Advaitacharya without a beard. But in our ISKCON temple in Mayapur, he wears a beard. So when you're in Mayapur, you have him wear a beard. Here's a form of his beard and Advaitacharya. Now below the beard there's a painting, a painted beard, and then the deity dressing has him with his formal beard. Now, a little bit of the activities of Advaitacharya, as it was already mentioned. He was of the age of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father, so he was quite elder. Mother Sachi had 8 daughters that died just after they were born. And he had an elder brother. An elder brother's name was Vishwarup. But Advaitacharya in Navadvip was, as you can see closely in the painting, there's a tear running down his cheek. He was feeling very despondent. It's described in great detail in Chaitanya Bhagavat, that he saw there in Navadvip, it was a seat of higher learning, Harvard or Yale or Oxford kind of place with many, 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 many learned persons. But his despair was those learned persons were using all of their Brahminical prowess for material sense enjoyment. And pious with Vedic rituals and so forth, but their intention was not to achieve the lotus feet of Vishnu. Their intention was material prosperity. And he knew where that would take people would lead to degradation of society in general, because material prosperity may not always be looked to by a religious method. So he felt, as the servant of the personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu is serving the Supreme Lord, that he wanted the Supreme Lord to appear in this world and personally make the situation different by his presence. So he remembered a particular verse from Gautamiya Tantra, which reads, Sri Krishna, who is very affectionate towards his devotees, sells himself to a devotee who offers merely a tulsi leaf and a palmful of water. You know, Advaitacharya was vastly learned and a Vaishnav. So he was dependent upon the personality of Godhead. That was his Leela. Of course, he's the personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu. And we'll hear more about that shortly. But in the mood of being the servant of Krishna, he wanted him to appear. And so he sat by the side of the Ganges River and not just offered a palmful of water, but a palmful of Ganges water. And not just Tulsi leaf, but Tulsi manjaris and many, many, many Tulsi and Ganges water offerings to his Shalagram Shila. And it said that he called out with a very loud voice to the Supreme Lord to make his appearance very soon. And hearing the loud cries, Lord Chaitanya said this later to Advaitacharya, I was asleep in Yoga Nidra. And your loud calling woke me up. It's Mahavishnu, he's in Yoga Nidra. But he was woken by Advaitacharya's call for Krishna to descend. And so he came in response to Advaitacharya's calling. Those of you that are familiar with Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, writes that there were three principal external reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. And as you see in the painting, this is one of them. The loud outcries of Advaitacharya appealing for Krishna to descend and correct the situation of Kali Yuga. The second reason was, it was the time for Lord Chaitanya's Yuga avatar appearance. For each of the 4 yugas, there's a particular form of the Lord who gives the means of deliverance for that age. Commonly, that form comes at the beginning of the yuga, or towards the beginning of the yuga. So as Kali Yuga had just gotten underway, Advaitacharya was appealing for the Lord to come, and he did, to perform his Sankirtan pastime, the Yuga Dharma pastime. And the third reason is Krishna had given his promise in Bhagavad Gita. So he would come from time to time and correct situation when there's adharma. So that's the third external reason. This in the painting is one of the primary reasons of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. And he appeared, as you see from the painting, on the full moon night in the month of Falgun. And the full moon night looks very wonderful. The full moon night looks very wonderful, but this wasn't just a full moon, Purnima, but it was a lunar eclipse. Now one time, I think it was 1970, 1974 or 5, there was a full lunar eclipse on Gaur Purnima. It was quite an experience, much like it's described in Chaitanya Bhagavat. People came from all over the place. Where they came from, who knows? From villages and from far away, and all at once, because the eclipse doesn't last too long. And what the tradition is 2 things. Immerse yourself half in water, chant Gayatri Mantra during that lunar eclipse, and loudly call out the holy name of the Lord. This was a trick, Lord Chaitanya's trick, because people were not calling out the holy name, but because of the religious principle of calling the name during a lunar eclipse, everyone was chanting loudly Krishna's holy name, or Hari, Hari, chanting Hari, Hari. So in that midst of that loud outcry of Hari Hari, so Lord Chaitanya made his appearance. And that year, 1974 or 75, when there was also a full lunar eclipse, I got out of there quickly because it's like a crowd going to a football game. And they're pushing each other, crowds of people, and they don't. I thought people were going to drown because they're half in the water, and there's everybody else wants to get in the water. The people are out in the water. The river's moving swiftly. People are going to drown. So I got the half immersed and got out. But it was quite a scene. So one can only imagine during the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu what an uproarious scene. And because of that loud chanting of the holy name just at the lunar eclipse time, that's when Lord Chaitanya appeared. And shortly after the birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the wife of Advaitacharya, her name is Sita, Advaitacharya had two homes. Wealthy people sometimes have more than one home. So his main home, his main residence, was in Shantipur. So all the way from Shantipur, she came with gifts to give to the newborn child, or in honor of the newborn child. So it's a very beautiful painting. And as you see from the painting, as she was seeing the child, she's the consort of Mahavishnu. So she knew this is Krishna as she was looking at the child. So imagine her happiness as she was seeing Krishna in his form as a Kali Yuga avatar. Must have been very wonderful. After his appearance, Advaitacharya shifted his residence to what's known as Advaita Bhavan. And the Advaita Bhavan is in the same compound as Srivas Thakur's home. It's a very small place, with at least the shrine that's there now is a little temple. But that's where he stayed. And so a walking distance from Srivas Thakur's home, walking distance from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's home. And what happened was, because he was a great Vaishnav, he was regularly giving a Bhagavatam class. But his Bhagavatam classes didn't just last for a half hour or 40 minutes. His Bhagavatam classes went on for the whole morning. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother named Vishwarup, he was very fond of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So he got up very early in the morning, took his morning bath, performed his puja, because he was a Brahmin boy, and he went straight away to Advaitacharya's Bhagavatam class. And he didn't come back home. And sometimes, as the painting shows, Mother Sachi had to send little Nimai, the younger brother, to bring him back for lunch. And so you see Nimai's holding his dhoti, and what do you do when someone's holding your dhoti? You go back for lunch. And this would happen as a daily affair. And as soon as he would finish his lunch, he'd go right back, and Advaitacharya was continuing with his Bhagavatam class. This went on and on and on and on, to the point where, at least those of you from India, you know what happens next. Mom and Dad started thinking, uh-oh, he's getting too spiritual. We better get him married. I hear some laughter in the room. So Vishwarup heard the talk, and Vishwarup didn't want to get married. So it worked the opposite. Vishwarup left home and took sannyas. Exactly what they wanted it to not happen. So what they decided to do was, we're not going to have Nimai go to school. He can't go to the Bhagavatam class. He can play all he likes. And he did, very wild things. Eventually he had to go to school. But Mother Sachi, Nimai's and Vishwarup's mother, was very upset. And she was blaming Advaitacharya because of his instilling bhakti so strongly in the heart of my son. He's taken sannyas. So she said he has the wrong name. He's not Acharya. He's teaching the opposite thing. He's breaking up family life. So instead of being calling Advaita, she should be called Dvaita. She was speaking, not just thinking, and hurt by the departure of her son. Unfortunately, by her speaking that way, her words got to the ears of Nimai Pandit, her son. And Nimai Pandit was known, this is a nice pastime. It's instructive. It's purposefully instructive. Nimai Pandit was known as the best of sons of the best of mothers. Mother Sachi was the best of mothers. And Nimai was so affectionate, and naturally so, because her husband was gone. She had lost. Her husband died when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quite young. So she had no husband. Her older son was gone. She had lost at birth 8 daughters, and the only thing left was Nimai Pandit. So she was upset. So she spoke criticism. She made offense. And Lord Chaitanya wanted to teach a lesson that even if your mother Sachi, you don't offend a Vaishnava. Don't criticize a Vaishnava. So hearing the criticism, he came back from his classroom went straight to his home, and he was holding his hand in the air like he was going to hit his mother. And everyone was, Nimai, that's your mother. You can't hit your mother. And he said, she's offended Advaitacharya. And he's our father. He's the leader of the whole Vaishnava community. And she's offended him. So, what can be done because of this offense? And he said that Mother Sachi has to fall at the feet of Advaitacharya and beg for his forgiveness. So the devotees went scurrying to get Advaitacharya from Advaita Bhavan to come to Sachi's home, and so Sachi could pay obeisances. They got Advaita. He found out what was going on. He came quickly, and he fell at the feet of Sachi. He said, how can I have her fall at my feet? She's my worshipable mother. She's the mother of the universe. How can I have her fall at my feet? I am falling at her feet. And Sachi understood the seriousness of her son, and so she profusely apologized and literally fell at the feet of Advaitacharya. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made a public declaration. From this day forward, everyone should understand how important it is to observe this etiquette of respecting a senior Vaishnava, as is Advaitacharya unto him. And afterwards, Advaitacharya was so moved by his protecting, because the purpose was to protect the devotees in general from criticizing Vaishnavas. He made the request of Lord Chaitanya to show his universal form. Now, why did Advaitacharya want to see Lord Chaitanya's universal form? He could have said, show me your Radha Krishna form, or whatever he wanted. It's very similar to Arjuna asking Krishna to show his universal form. As we hear Prabhupada say so many times, Arjuna knew, but in future generations, people may claim to be the personality of Godhead. So if someone does like that, ask them to show their universal form. If they can't show their universal form, then you don't accept they're the personality of Godhead. Then one of the devotees asked Prabhupada, what if somebody says, I would show the universal form, but you don't have the eyes to see, you're not qualified. Then Prabhupada said, you ask that person, who is that disciple of yours that is qualified? who you've shown the universal form to. Because if you haven't been able to make somebody qualified as a disciple, then you're not the personality of Godhead. Challenge them that way. Later, after Lord Chaitanya, we'll go back. After Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas, by the tricks of Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya went to the home of Advaitacharya. Instead of going to Vrindavan, he went along the path of the Ganges that led him to Advaitacharya's home at Shantipur. And the devotees were called together. And after some time staying at the house of Advaitacharya, Lord Chaitanya, instead of going to Vrindavan, went to Puri. After he went to Puri, he stayed for some months. And after staying for some months, on the pretext of looking for his brother, Vishwarup, who had been, it was said that he had gone to South India, he wanted to go to South India and search for his brother. But he's omniscient. He knew that Vishwarup had already departed this world, so it was a pretext to go deliver the Sankirtan movement throughout the land. When he came back to Jagannath Puri, he dismissed his servant because in part of their travel in South India for 2 years, Krishnadas, who was this singular brahmachari that helped him in all of his travels, he left Lord Chaitanya's association, which is instructive. So supposing you're a nice devotee, or trying to be at least. So take caution that even if you have really good association with Lord Chaitanya himself, you can have problems. Don't leave yourself vulnerable to the tricks of Maya. And the trick of Maya that he became vulnerable to was a group of tribal people that were into male-female association in not very nice ways. So they're called the Bhattaharis. And the Bhattaharis polluted the mind of Krishnadas, who left Lord Chaitanya's association to join them. And they had bad intentions for him, not just, make him one of us. But Lord Chaitanya went to the Bhattahari camp. They had weapons and knives and different ways of trying to harm him, and all the weapons fell from their hands and cut their feet. And Lord Chaitanya grabbed his servant by the sika and pulled him back. When they got back to Puri, he hadn't spoken like this to Krishnadas, but he told them, your service is over, you can go wherever you like. Like, I don't want to see you again. And Krishnadas was devastated. He knew he had made a big offense, but Lord Chaitanya saying, I don't want to see you again, that was too much. So they made a plan how Krishnadas could, in the physical non-presence of Lord Chaitanya, do some service, direct service, because he had become attached to Lord Chaitanya. They sent him to Navadvip. From Puri to Navadvip, there was no train. It was a long walk. But they sent him all the way to Puri with the intention that Krishnadas would then let the residents of Navadvip know, Lord Chaitanya's back. He's come back from his tour. Please come and join him. Soon Rathayatra festival is going to happen. Bring all the family, bring everybody. Let's go see Lord Chaitanya. So when that took place, one person who was in Navadvip at the time didn't want to wait. And he is the godbrother of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master, Paramananda Puri. And Paramananda Puri didn't want to travel alone, so Advaitacharya assigned his personal secretary, Kamlakanta Vishwas, to accompany Paramananda Puri to go to Jagannath Puri. So Kamlakanta Vishwas, being an intimate associate of Advaitacharya, knew of all of his personal affairs. And one of those personal affairs was he had borrowed a vast sum of 300 rupees. Now, Prabhupada writes 300 rupees, although there weren't rupees during his time, but 300 rupees, which was worth a lot more than 300 rupees today, that's for sure. And when Kamalakanta Vishwas and Paramananda Puri reached Jagannath Puri, Kamalakanta sent a note to the king. It's a nice pastime. And the note said, Advaitacharya is Mahavishnu, and please forgive him of this in debt that he has to you, 300 rupees. So it doesn't say how. In fact, it says no one knows how. But that letter to the king instead made its way to Lord Chaitanya's hand. And Lord Chaitanya was really unhappy. So when Advaitacharya came later to Jagannath Puri, he heard that Lord Chaitanya had forbidden Kamalakanta Vishwas to even come and see him. He didn't want to see his face. And Kamalakanta then went to Advaitacharya, oh, he doesn't want to see my face. What to do? And Advaitacharya scolded him. Not because because of the note, but because he was sobbing about being chastised in this way by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Listen carefully. Advaitacharya said, I have tried again and again and again in so many ways have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reprimand me, because by his reprimanding me, he's showing me mercy. He's showing his superiority, but he always looks up to me as, his elder. But I see him as the personality of Godhead. So that pains my heart. I want to serve him, and he looks at me as his superior. Very, very difficult. So he said, on one occasion, to get Lord Chaitanya's chastisement, have Lord Chaitanya show his superiority to me, I expounded the Yoga Vishishta, which considers liberation the ultimate goal of life. For this, the Lord became angry at me and treated me with apparent disrespect. He tricked Lord Chaitanya to scold him and said, now you're whining and complaining, oh, he scolded me. You're more fortunate than me, because I had to trick him to get him to scold me. Then Advaitacharya went to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya explained why he did what he did. He said in the letter, he said, bring Kamalakanta, send him here. And while they were going to get Kamalakanta, Advaitacharya said, now you've double-tricked me. Before you wouldn't chastise me, and now you're showing your mercy to one who you just chastised. So he was as a mood of transcendental love. So when Kamalakanta Vishwas came before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya said, the letter that you wrote, one half of it was right. You said he's Mahavishnu. He's Mahavishnu. But the other part, how can Mahavishnu have a debt to anybody? This is offensive. And for your offense, I've dismissed you. Now please, so then he spoke to everybody. Those of you that are in an elevated position, never accept money from a materialistic person, because the mind will become polluted, and when the mind is polluted, you won't be able to think of the personality of Godhead. And everyone understood, whoa, this was meant for us, which was this purpose. Advaitacharya accepted Lord Chaitanya as the personality of Godhead, as Krishna himself. He knew, just like his wife knew when she went to see the little baby, this is the personality of Godhead, Krishna, who has just appeared as the son of Sachi. Another nice pastime occurred in the home of Advaitacharya, where he invited the two lords Chaitanya and Nityananda to have a meal. And when he brought the meal, Lord Chaitanya started separating items from his plate to another plate because it was so much. And Lord Chaitanya said, "What are you doing?" "Well, it's too much. I'm a sannyasi." He said, "Wait a minute. You're the personality of Godhead. You eat 56 times a day in Jagannath Puri. So just, behave yourself and accept what's offered to you." And on the other hand, Lord Nityananda, being like an Avaduta, he was screaming and complaining, "Why are you starving me like this? I'm so hungry." And he picked some rice and threw it on the ground. That's what the painting is showing. And some of the grains of rice that he threw on the ground bounced and hit the leg of Advaitacharya, who began dancing. "I've been touched by the prasad of Lord Nityananda." Very curious relationship these two personalities had, Lord Nityananda and Advaitacharya. Many times we hear of his joining the Sankirtan party of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, particularly during the Rath-yatra festival. There are different Sankirtan parties with different, very nicely organized, and one of the dancers, along with the elder Haridas Thakur, was Advaitacharya. Of course, he's Mahavishnu, he can dance all he likes. But in his age, he was quite elderly. But he's one of the essential personalities in the 5 features of Lord Chaitanya. Towards the end of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya was called and given a riddle from Advaitacharya to Lord Chaitanya. It goes like this, the English translation. "Please inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is acting like a madman, that everyone here has become mad, like him. Inform him also that in the marketplace rice is no longer in demand. Furthermore, tell him that those now mad in ecstatic love are no longer interested in the material world. Also tell Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one who has also become a madman in ecstatic love, namely himself, has spoken these words." So that's the Prabhupada's English translation of what Advaitacharya said was the message to be given to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the commentary explains like this. Essentially, you appeared in this world to give people love of God. You did this in the mood of a madman. And now everyone has become a recipient of love of God, and they've also become madmen. And in the marketplace, there's no longer a demand for rice. That is, the objects of material enjoyment in Bengal, rice is nice and very much appreciated. So people have lost interest in material enjoyment. It's no longer in demand. Furthermore, tell him that those who have been infected and affected in this way, they no longer have interest in the material world. And this is coming from one of his favorite, choicest madmen himself, Advaitacharya. So that was the riddle. And shortly after that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu terminated or ended his worldly pastimes, as did Advaitacharya and the whole of Lord Chaitanya's eternal entourage. So there's many nice additional pastimes of Advaitacharya, but just to keep within the time frame, it's a little over 50 minutes. There's an introduction to Advaitacharya 3 days after his appearance day. That's what I was asked to speak about, and so here we are. Now, if there are those of you that want to ask a question, please do so. Just you can unmute yourself, or you could send something into the chat box and somebody can read out the chat box questions. We have a question in the room.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, very wonderful class. So Maharaj, you mentioned about the pastime of Mother Sachi, who like offended Advaitacharya. So what I heard is she didn't speak, but she was just thinking like that in the mind that he's Dvaita, not Advaita. So also I heard in the class that in Kali Yuga, the offenses in the minds are not taken; those are kind of forgiven. And also we say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most merciful incarnation. He is Param Karuna. So how do we take it that way? Like
We
she
have
did
two
not.
conflicts, two conflicting representations. He wanted to teach a lesson. He's free to teach lessons. Although he's Mahakaruna, it's Mahakaruna to teach lessons. Don't offend an elder and a senior Vaishnava. So he used his mother as the instrument to teach the lesson to all the Vaishnavas. Now, whether she spoke or just thought the thought in her mind, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was using her as a lesson recipient because he loved his mother. But it was he making the exception to his normal behavior with her to teach a lesson. Now, is it true what you've heard, that in Kali Yuga we're not responsible for bad thoughts? It's only when you act or speak something bad are you responsible karmically. Yes. However, commonly if there's a bad thought, it becomes a bad action. What's inside comes outside. So don't hold on to, well, I can think some bad thought and it's okay. I can think some illicit something or illegal something. You continue to think such thoughts and it becomes a behavior.
So that, in the similar line, Maharaj, there was the pastime that you mentioned, Kala Krishna Das, like he went to Bhattadari camp and again Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to see you again.
He was teaching.
Yeah. I believe he committed suicide is what I heard. Maharaj.
No.
There was another.
No, another.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Chota Haridas. Yeah. Mask, so I can hear you better.
So Maharaj,
you don't like masks anyways. When we came in, you weren't wearing one.
So Maharaj, you said the relationship between Advaitacharya and Lord Nityananda is curious. You use the word curious. And if you look at their relationship,
very funny.
One is like, incarnation of Lord Balram, and one is Mahavishnu who comes from him.
Yeah.
So could you elaborate on what you meant by curious and how do we understand this?
Oh, they just had a transcendental kind of, they would say bad things to back and forth. During that pastime with the prasad, you said, you nobody knows your caste because, he doesn't have one. So don't complain. Just take the mercy of the Lord, however it comes. What's your position? And, you've invited me as your guest and you're offending me. And, what kind of Brahmin are you? And, so talking, in apparently critical ways, but there's the hidden meaning and the loving affection that's between two people that have an intimacy and no ill feeling towards one another. They may speak like that in really funny ways. It's an unusual relationship, not just what you just said, Balaram and his expansion, Mahavishnu. So it's transcendentally unique. In between forms of the Lord and another form of the Lord, it's not very common. You hear those kinds of exchanges. That's what I meant. Anything online? How we doing?
Maharaj, I have a question, if you
allow.
Maharaj, first of all, thank you so much for taking the effort to come here.
Yeah. Are you
Please
here or
keep
you're in Detroit?
in Farmington as well.
No, you're in Farmington. Okay.
Yeah. Please continue, keep bestowing your mercy on us with your kindness.
Okay. You just keep the snow away. On Thursday, we
Maharaj,
heard some devotees came to Farmington. It was a snowstorm on
yeah,
Thursday,
there.
but there was
Yes,
no.
sir.
So you make it so there's no snow, and I can come again.
Maharaj, you mentioned about Sachi Mata. I personally experienced in my life being in a temple scenario where I deal with many devotees, and sometime um, unintentionally, like an example can be somebody did a dressing, and if there is a correction required, then we tell them, well, don't do like this. Standard is like this. Or there are so many dealings that we do with devotees all that in the temple. And I, knowingly, unknowingly, many times I see an effect in my sadhana. And you were sharing, and I have heard also, unless we come to the stage of no offenses, the devotion will not grow. And I personally desire to deepen my devotion.
Hmm.
A very like I was remembering when you were mentioning about Sachi Mata is the pastime of Rupa Goswami, who just laughed and he lost his meditation. So like just now there was Nityananda Chaturdashi festival, and uh, I don't know what I did, and I felt something. So how uh, how can I come out of this whole phase eventually to the point that I can deepen my own devotion? Because everything that I'm doing, kind of the purpose is that I grow in my own devotion, and these are obstacles for me. So Maharaj,
Well,
can
the
you
process of removal of
help
obstacles,
me govern it over?
the process of removing internal obstacles primarily is resting upon your eagerness or enthusiasm to go beyond those obstacles, meaning we're dependent upon the mercy of the merciful Vaishnavas and the merciful Lord who delivers himself through the merciful Vaishnavas, and we're dependent. So on the one hand, there's these two things, effort and mercy. And effort and effort and effort and effort, and it's insufficient. It's necessary, but insufficient. So we need mercy and mercy and mercy. So what's required, not just you, each of us, to go deeper in bhakti, is we require mercy. That's a genuine, not a cosmetic humility. We need humility that tells us, I can't get beyond these obstacles, my own impurities, without the mercy of devotees, without the mercy of Krishna, which comes through the mercy of devotees. And that's a bhakti principle. So it seems a bit of a dilemma that in order for bhakti to deepen, I have to go get more bhakti. But it's receiving effort. It's effort and mercy, receiving mercy. There will be some purification, and part of that purification you're describing is recognizing this is an obstacle. And now what do I do about the obstacle? Because it's an obstacle. And you need help beyond your own capacity. And that's mercy. You continue making effort. That is being vigilant to guard against offenses, but we still need lots of mercy. That's the bhakti combination. It will deepen your bhakti. I was recently contemplating this point of eagerness. And actually, it was a major factor, major message during our recent Festival of the Holy Name in Chicago that happens every year around the 4th of July. And the theme was, say yes to the Holy Name. And the Y stands for yearning, the E stands for enthusiasm, and the S stands for spontaneous. So to go beyond regulative bhakti, where we're stumbling, but, doing
Yes,
regulative
Maharaj.
bhakti, to go beyond regulative bhakti, to get to spontaneous bhakti, there's this enthusiasm factor. And the enthusiasm factor, that's effort, carries us beyond the stumbling sadhana bhakti stage. The treading water, not making too much advancement stage, which we're all familiar with, those that have been around for a while. And so when you have enthusiasm, it becomes very clear. It's not doership enthusiasm. It's enthusiasm to get mercy. It's a key. It's a key to making substantial progress, or your question, deepen bhakti. It's enthusiasm, not just yearning. Your message is a yearning. Turn the yearning into the next stage. Enthusiasm. How do you get enthusiasm? Associate with those that are enthusiastic. And that includes our great acharyas who exhibit again and again, kind of enthusiasm that for us is out of sight, but it's inspirational enthusiasm that teaches us about the principle of enthusiasm. And it's how bhakti progresses beyond the stumbling, yearning to stop stumbling, to the stage where it's moving towards spontaneous bhakti. That's enthusiasm. It's the key. It's the key. Utsahan, or laulyam, in the words of the Brahma Samhita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or nectar devotion. Laulyam, very similar to utsahan. It's part of Lord Chaitanya's, part of Rupa Goswami's teachings. So that's the missing ingredient, or the added ingredient. And how do you get it? How do you get that ingredient? Once you know what it is, you know what to go after. And you get it from those that are enthusiastic. When you want to get warm, you stand near a fire. You get warm. So associate with those that have enthusiasm. And association doesn't necessarily mean physical proximity. It means the heart. Open the heart to those who are, let's say from Scripture, your role models. And depends on who your role models are, and what your nature is, your stage of spiritual progress is, and so forth. You get down to it, and it leads to Raganuga Bhakti. The perfected associates of Krishna in the spiritual world, in Krishna Loka. It leads to that. But supposing somebody has whoever, I look up to such and such role model. I mean, like when I was the first year that I was a devotee, Prahlad Maharaj was one of my heroes. Because of his preaching and because of his fearlessness, and so he was a hero. So I loved reading about Prahlad Maharaj and hearing about Prahlad, and it helped carry me beyond the lower stages into intermediate stages of bhakti. It's a Vaishnava principle. It's a Gaudiya Vaishnava principle, but it's a Vaishnava principle. Those that are enthusiastic associate with them, even the personalities that we read about in Shastra, in Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavatam or wherever, Ramayana. Some persons I know, they're really Ramayana fans. And they can just hit their Ramayana button and they don't stop. That they're filled with enthusiasm for the lessons from Ramayana. So find such people and associate with them. Depending upon the phrase used by Rupa Goswami is those who are like-minded. There must be such people in our lives.
Maharaj, can I ask more question?
Okay.
Okay. Maharaj, thank you so much for bringing this topic out. Recently, I was reading about the stage of um, Ruchi, Ashakti, and what happens in those stages. And it felt very far off. At the same time, there was a intense inspiration that I want to experience what they experience in those stages. And
That's the yearning.
that
That's the yearning. Kabe habe bolo se di namar. That's the yearning part. When oh when will that day be mine? It's far away, but I want that day to be my day. Yeah?
yes, Maharaj. And I was like, most of the inspiration I was recently receiving, and the eagerness I was developing deeper was through mainly reading Maharaj, reading the books which
Good.
discusses. But I felt a lack of, like you mentioned, share your heart. I felt a lack of like-minded association and lack of guidance, and I felt I'm in middle of. I mean, I have a desire to associate, get guidance. I'm not even sure. I mean, I'm getting the understanding and inspiration from within my heart, which is mainly based on reading. Um, um, uh, and there is a desire, and there is a lack of clarity of direction, Maharaj.
Well, this is welcome to the club. Advancing in Krishna Conscious or Bhakti Path Club, and learn what we speak to new devotees to appreciate Prabhupada as our principal Shiksha Guru, because there is association. I'll share something with you.
Yes, Maharaj, please.
You know Keshava Bharati Maharaj?
Yeah, I have heard of him, but never associated with him.
Okay. He's like a gulab jamun. He's really juicy. You get near him, just bump into him, and you're all soaking with gulab jamun juice. That's Keshava Bharati Maharaj, and he was establishing a bhakta ashram in Houston, and he was doing this as a service to his dear godbrother Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who had left this world and wanted Western people to join the Hare Krishna movement in Dallas and in Houston. He was very dedicated to that. It hadn't happened in Houston in the way that others that were followers of Tamal Krishna Maharaj wanted. So he decided he's going to set up. Previously, he had been in Denver with Vaisheshika Prabhu building the Bhakti program in Denver. So he shifted to Houston. So I visit Houston, and we would have their conversations. And long story short,
Yes.
he reads Prabhupada's books at least 8 hours a day. He has made a commitment to the BBT to make audio books of the three principal Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Nectar Devotion and Bhagavad Gita, 4 books. He just recently completed Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he's a little recording studio set up next to the Sannyas Ashram in Houston, set up by a devotee in their home, a professional recording studio. And for 2 hours every morning, he just reads. And the evening class, he just reads. He doesn't give a class. He just reads. And he doesn't advertise, but there's about 30 people in the room. Of course, this is pre-COVID. And then during the day, he reads. He just reads Prabhupada's books about 8 hours a day. And he chants, 32 rounds and worships his deity and takes care of the Bhakti program. Now, he shared with me, I've edited, he gave me some number of books that he's edited, Shivaram Maharaj's writings and this and that and the other thing. And I've come to the point where I don't want to read anything other than Prabhupada's books or Gopi Pranadana Prabhu's books because he has such fidelity to Prabhupada, meaning Chaitanya Bhagavat. So now, online, he has an online reading group that goes for 2.5 to 3 hours every day, and it's just reading. He's not discussing. He's just reading. And there's probably several hundred people that are online with him as he's reading. He's just reading. And that's his association with Prabhupada. Now, you're not a disciple of Prabhupada, but principal Shiksha Guru for all of us in ISKCON. So you get the Shiksha that way. That's one way, not the only way, but it's a very important way so that you're finding, and no, what about discussing? Find a devotee here or there, and then you just do what many people do these days. You arrange some time, whatever it is, once a week or something, and what have you been reading, and you discuss what you've been reading. It doesn't have to be somebody, by your shoulder, somebody that you have a spiritual connection with, you relate to one another. It doesn't have to be a Superman sannyasi. It can be somebody who is a wholesome devotee that really wants to go forward in Krishna Bhakti, as do you, deep in Krishna Bhakti, as do you, and you do something together on a regular basis. I know many devotees that do that. They have, once a week or whatever it is, and they're together with so-and-so Prabhu or so-and-so Dasi, and, there's ladies. And they do what they do together. They decide what they want to do together. But part of it is, sharing their deeper realizations and their efforts to go deeper in the bhakti process. And that's another kind of sadhu sangha for many devotees. And it doesn't have to be, a major part of your day or even, but it's a very significant part of your week. You'll find where there is a will, there's a way. You'll find. Sadhu
Thank you
Sangha.
so much.
Sadhu Sangha is a very important dimension. How are we doing? Anybody else online? I see lots of names, and you're all muted. So unmute yourself, somebody, and I'm a sitting duck here. You got me. I see Perumal unmuted. You have something?
Nothing, Maharaj. You said not to unmute, so I just unmuted.
Oh. I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you like to have some discussion on some topic?
No, Maharaj. I really enjoyed the topic. It's
Okay.
great just
Okay.
to see you and hear you. That's a
Okay.
great blessing than anything else.
Okay. Then you can mute yourself again. Okay, we have something in the room here, since nobody out there is speaking up.
Maharaj, thank you so much for the, detailed explanation on His Grace Shyamanand Krishna Prabhu's answer. My question is related to that. So, this Anartha Nivritti stage is very long. It's what I heard. It's like 2, and sometimes we try.
You want it to be shorter, what to do?
I'm personally I would like to definitely progress, Maharaj, and keep some short goals, and we do effort. I do effort. I try to do more and more to cross, and at least make progress. Get myself confidence that yes, I am making progress. But as
I was waiting for the but.
As I go for, try to do more and more, these anarthas keep getting more and more prominently, they kind of come back.
You're making progress. Supposing you hadn't made the effort, what would happen? That crust would just sit there for who knows how many lifetimes. So that it's coming out, it's progress. Celebrate. Yay!
It's like sometimes frustrating.
Here's excuse me for interrupting, because I know the story. Prabhupada gave the same message to Karandar as he did to Brahmananda. And it goes like this. Prabhupada, what? I thought when I would join the Hare Krishna movement, I'd become peaceful and happy. And I found as I go further and further, I get this more and more turmoil. So am I doing something wrong? And Prabhupada gave the very simple answer. When you go into a room, a house, that's been neglected for decades, and you start to make it clean, what happens? The air becomes filled with dust, and it's hard to breathe. Good, keep going. And as you clean and clean and clean, eventually the place is clean. And it's habitable and, in fact, inviting. So the cleansing stirs up stuff that was just settled for who knows how long. So that things are becoming, you're finding more and more. It's not uncommon, by the way. It's just par for the course. The standard for one who's doing sadhana bhakti nicely, you'll find that there's more coverings, taking a phrase from Burijan Prabhu, 3 miles thick dust. Cheta Darpada Marjanam. How thick? 3 miles. Keep going. Because it's showing the process is working. What was settled and not apparent to you at all because consciousness was dull, those things are still there and having their influence. And now you're discovering they're there. Keep going. The process is working. Don't be discouraged.
Maharaj, you mentioned regarding mercy also, like you try, but at certain point in time you need mercy also. So
well, not a certain point in time. At a certain point in time, you realize I can't do this on my own. One who, so let's just take control. Not having chanting undistractedly. Good luck, Prabhu. But you try and try. So if you don't try, you won't realize I need. But if you try, it's not. Then I realize you always need it. You're just we're in doership mode, not in the service mode. In the service mode, you need the mercy of the master, and he's ready. Krishna's ready to be the merciful master. We're just distracted. We're not paying attention to Krishna. We're paying attention to what we're distracted by. So that's just part of the transitional stage from, as this earlier question, from sadhana bhakti, moving towards the higher stages of sadhana bhakti or towards spontaneous devotional service. So what do? Enthusiasm. Through the lens of scripture. It's working. Anarthas are being lifted and they're flying around and I didn't even know they were there. So keep going. Get more enthusiastic. Not like you're failing in bhakti process or you're lacking in some way. You're a failure. That's the mode of ignorance. It's working. Let me redouble my enthusiasm because it's working. I have faith. As faith increases, bhakti increases. Or as bhakti increases, faith increases. The 9 stages of bhakti, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is just a description of different stages of faith, including Nartanivriti. And it's a long one, a long road. And it can be longer. It doesn't have to be longer. It can be shorter, depending upon the enthusiasm, the faithfulness with which you engage in it. Sadhana bhakti, by definition, is knowing that sadhana bhakti where one knows that spontaneous devotional service is at the other end of the train ride. That's where you're going. When you get on the bhakti train, Rupa Goswami's bhakti train, that's where we're going.
thank you, Maharaj. Sometimes there is a fear, like while doing this, and like, what if I'm not will not make it and leave my body before even I cross this struggle.
However long it takes, get on the train. You'll get there. Our acharyas speak, with greatest humility. You know what the scriptures say. So don't go to the tamagun, go to the sattvagun, go to the vishuddha sattva direction. That's what you have to do. This lamentation and, I'm not good enough, and what if, and all that stuff.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Kick it out.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I have a strange question.
A strange question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maharaj, if someone sees some demigods continuously or goddesses in the dreams, is it good for bhakti? Is it bad? What does it symbolize?
I don't think it's either good or bad for bhakti. What's the way in which you view the world is what's good or bad for bhakti, not what you view. So, if some demigoddess or demigod appears in your dream, how you're viewing it depends on whether it's good or bad. If you think, this is it, I'm supposed to be a worshiper of this demigod or demigoddess, then that's not good. That's not what Bhagavad Gita teaches us, what Krishna teaches us in Bhagavad Gita. You're getting some mercy. Fantastic. Get some mercy. And petition those who are appearing in your dream, please give me Shuddha Bhakti. Here's a nice example. Dhruva Maharaj, when he was adult and was king, and his stepbrother was killed, he went on a rampage to get revenge against the yakshas. And he was really slaughtering the yakshas left and right. And so his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, came and put a cold towel on his forehead and told him, look, stop. And gave him, it's a long section of the Bhagavatam. And he accepted. He stopped. Kuvera came because he is the lord of the yakshas. He said, you're a very elevated personality. Just by the words of Swayambhuva Manu, you stopped. I now offer you any benediction, whatever you like. He said, please make me always faithful to the personality of Godhead and engage in the association of his devotees. So that's if you see a demigod in person. Now, if you're seeing one in your dream, ask them the same thing. Come to the stage through their mercy or however, to the position where you take shelter of the personality of Godhead and his devotees. Then that's favorable to bhakti and favorable to you. Now that's maybe not where we're at, but that's what favorable is.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you for such a nice class. Maharaj, I have a question, extension to Praveen's Prabhuji's question. Maharaj, how to be enthusiastic? I'm just saying, at the start, like when you start the bhakti several years back, then it is very easy to be enthusiastic at the start of when you start the Hare Krishna, join the club. But slowly then it becomes a little bit, it slows down, or you will lose that enthusiasm. So how to keep that enthusiasm going? Because that is like you mentioned, that is one of the important part, to be enthusiastic.
Ask Shamananda Krishna. I just told him the answer. Confirmed.
Sure. Sure.
Complacency is like throwing water on a fire. Complacency is one of those, it's all about me, and now I'm feeling comfortable, so I become complacent. And so enthusiasm goes down, the fire goes down, until we get to the point where you're kind of dragging and you realize, gosh, I don't want to be dragging. So then, sometimes what will happen is Krishna will throw a calamity your way, so then you stop being complacent. So why put Krishna through the trouble of throwing a calamity your way? Why go through the trouble of a calamity so you get enthusiastic again? So you go this other path, you go the higher road, which is, because I like the Dhruva Maharaj story, it's very instructive. His mother tells him the same thing, take shelter of higher principles. Bhakti requires you to take shelter of higher principles. And then you can maintain, sustain enthusiasm by taking shelter of higher principles. Otherwise, the initial phase is, what you described. There's enthusiasm but then because of familiarity and complacency, the enthusiasm goes down. So how to sustain it? Go to higher principle. And it's doable. The bhakti process is meant to take you there. So adhere nicely. The how-to questions are adhere nicely to the bhakti process.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. And associate with those that are, have sustained enthusiasm. And find such people and associate closely with such people in ways that we've described already. Starting with reading Prabhupada's books regularly. He's enthusiastic, boy. I've been listening, I have one of those little devices that has all of Prabhupada's recorded lectures. You listen to Prabhupada regularly. I listen at least 3 times a day. Every day. It's wonderful. And the urgency in Prabhupada's voice, it grows inside, the voice of urgency. He really had compassion. He didn't want people to struggle in this zone that you described. Even the devotees, or what to speak of the non-devotees, you feel that call, the voice of urgency. Now, it's in his purports, but when you hear him speak it, it's... So there's another suggestion. Listen to our founder, Acharya, call you from your complacency into the fire of bhakti. It's compelling. It works. Ask Keshavarti Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, looks like do we have anything online over here? We have some online over here. Go ahead.
Question from Amara Devidasi. Regarding Advaita Acharya's identity, he is Mahavishnu and also Sadashiva. Can you kindly elaborate on how these both were his identities?
How both what?
How these both were his identities.
It's a little esoteric, so it may not be so relevant to you, and what to speak of the other people on this call or during this class. Sadashiva is a form of the personality of Godhead in the Vaikuntha realm. Mahavishnu takes his residence within the material realm, although he's the personality of Godhead. So the connection is, one is the expansion of the other, one is his residence is in the spiritual realm, and the other his residence is in the material realm. That's the relationship or the connection. But that's like, Krishna Consciousness 301. To understand that one. Okay, next. That's it. We have one more in the room. And then I think we're going to call it a day.
Maharaj, again, going back to the pastime about Advaitacharya and Mother Sachi.
Mother Sachi.
Yeah. So, how do we stop the thought at that moment itself when we are thinking about somebody else, whether it's good, bad, commenting? How do we cut it off? Right. As you said, once you start thinking, you start contemplating on it, and then it
Yes.
turns into action.
Yes.
So, how do we stop it at the thought level?
The long term is become pure in heart, and then immediately you got to brake pedal. By a higher taste, you can say no to the lower taste. With Dhruva, he got checked just by sound vibration. Very qualified person, one of the 12 Mahajans came and spoke to him, but he got checked just by sound vibration. So that requires a heart that's pure, or a consciousness that's elevated. That's the stage to aspire for. So but Maharaj, I'm not there yet. So what to do? That you tolerate tang satiksha sva bharata. You tolerate that, and turn your attention to sat. You just practice. That's what you do in your stage, or we do in our stage. Is the urge is there, something, the lower nature urge, whatever that something might be. Lust, anger, fault finding, something, greed, something, envy, something. You don't yield to that urge, knowing, so you go into the mode of goodness space, reflective space. I know what that one is. It's the fault-finding tendency. That's that lower mode of nature. And you in the reflective space, you consider what your teachers in the teachings say. This is the illusory energy capturing me. And I'm going to say no to Maya. And I'm going to say yes to Krishna. Now, how do you say? By saying yes to Krishna means there's a shelter or something that you do instead. So take shelter means do the something instead. Whatever that something is, that's your shelter, your personality, your way of taking shelter of the personality of God. So it comes by practice, abhyasa yogi yuktena, but in the beginning stage you tolerate and take shelter of sat. Take shelter of your connection with Krishna, your connection with your spiritual teachers and teachings, and that you do in the short term. The intermediate term, read Prabhupada's books, follow exemplary personalities in your worldly life and in the scriptural exemplary personalities that you really look up to. We all have our heroes and our role model people that we really like. And cultivate that. Cultivate that. That's our life as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Learn about and deeply dive into the character and the life of a great personality, whoever that, pick one. Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Rupa Goswami. I mean, the list is a long list. And learn about them and just become attached to them. And that will become, by that association, it becomes your character, and the bad thoughts will dissipate because your thoughts will be in this higher space, exalted soul space, by that association, by that contemplation. There's I don't know the Sanskrit terms, but there's in the yoga process, there's the hear, there's the meditate upon what you have heard, and then there's the assimilation of that which you have heard, and it's within now, not just in your mind, it's at the heart level. And, then this other thing, initially you tolerate, and then you go deeper in the bhakti. Like his question, you go deeper in the bhakti process. And how you go deeper in the bhakti process was discussed, several different examples of the Ramanujacharya speaks about this in his writings. It's similar to the Gaudiya principle. That is, if you want to develop a certain quality, they say, I'd like to develop the quality of not fault-finding. Find some ideal personality in Scripture or in your life or both that's free from fault-finding. You want to develop a quality? Find an exemplar, an acharya of that quality, and absorb yourself in hearing about that person, remembering the person, speaking about the person, reading about the person, and you'll get there. That becomes your quality. By association becomes your quality. And everything's there in Prabhupada's books. So just read Prabhupada's books. But then you have to have your eyes open so you know what's going on. He's giving his association in ways that we may not be able to weigh and measure. We may not have the parameters or yardsticks to feel it, sense it palpably, but it's there. Okay.
Maharaj, I would like to thank you so much, and we, on behalf of everyone, I personally beg you to please keep giving us guidance. We need guidance to keep moving on right direction. This is.
I have one request of all of you.
Yes, Maharaj.
The request is our mission, your and my and our mission is Prabhupada's mission. Our life in ISKCON is his mission, as his mission was Bhaktisiddhanta's mission, which means Lord Chaitanya's mission. And I'm looking at the names on the screen here, and I don't see any non-Indian names on the screen here. So please, when COVID, and even before COVID thing lifts, develop a strategy and implement the strategy, because my understanding was, going back some years, that the target audience in Grand Rapids was the non-Indian devotee, your potential devotees. Now, all of you are wonderful souls and fantastic souls. So I'm not diminishing that importance. Now, as Prabhupada used the American devotees to help the Indian people take Krishna consciousness, the table is turned, and please use your spiritual horsepower to come, and brains and skills and everything, your hearts, your minds, your words, your bodies, your cooking, your everything, to find ways and means to enter the hearts and the minds of those other than those who I see names on this screen. That's my request of all of you. Somehow, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm sure you can all do it. And what to speak of collectively. That's my request of all of you.
Maharaj, thank you so much. Just something on that. There have been discussions going on because of this COVID situation. We mellowed down, and I was also not coming there. Our goal for Grand Rapids, all the devotees on the same page, is what you gave instruction. With your guidance, that's the only thing we want to focus on once we start moving our yatra in Grand Rapids again.
Well, there are things that you can do even when you can't go out and about. And I don't need to list what those things are because you're all intelligent. There are things that you can do presently to make your presence felt. And then what to speak of, make the plans today for what's going to happen when COVID lifts. But even before COVID lifts, there are things you can do. I don't need to spell it out. You're all intelligent. Okay. That's our sound system. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam Maharaj. Hare Krishna.